Hello and welcome to the Sustainable Consumption Teaching Series. My name is Carola Strassner and I'm here to talk to you about community-supported agriculture. What is community-supported agriculture? It's a relatively new form of a new relationship between what we think of our consumers and what we think of as producers. Now, what is the new thing about their relationship? It's a loss of that identity of being a consumer because I take more responsibility for the production side of things. It's easiest to explain it by a case study. And let me take as an example a local farm we have here in the Münster region of Germany, that's northwest Germany, and explain to you how the system works between those we know of traditionally as consumers and those we know of as producers. This is a relatively small farm. There's about 30 hectares that they have of land, and it's a mixed farm. They have dairy sheep for producing sheep milk yogurt and sheep's milk cheese. They have about 4 polytunnels for producing vegetables, and they're starting to branch out into fruit trees and fruit berries to produce for the community. There's a little bakery on the site of the farm, and there's also even a little farm shop, which has some tradition that goes back. This is a farm that's run by biodynamic principles, and you'll find that most community-supported agriculture ventures are organic or very close to organic principles of agriculture. Sometimes they're certified organic, but not always. In our case, this little farm near Münster in Germany has a community of about 100 people that would probably consider themselves still to be consumers because traditionally they would buy their food in retail or perhaps at the local market on occasion. Now, in this case of CSA, they agree to provide funding for a whole year of farming on this community venture. And they will probably pay in monthly installments, and very few of them might choose to pay on an annual basis. So they will commit for a full year to support the farm, and the money goes towards the farm managers and the farmers who are running it, and who from this money are able to buy the seed, are able to pay for the workers and any other inputs that they need. The farmers in turn will be planting about 40 different vegetables for consumption across the whole year. So they will work out quite a complicated consumer basket, if you like, of vegetables that will cover with a big variety the different seasons throughout the year. That means that in summer there will be about easily 40 salads and vegetables, and in winter definitely about 20 will be available. And that makes for quite a good biodiversity in a diet. And it is possible in the research that we've done to check on the dietary diversity and are they meeting the requirements or the recommendations for vegetables. They're actually meeting the vegetable recommendation fully because that amount has been well calculated and planned. So that's the vegetable side of it. Then there's the dairy side of it, which comes through the sheep's milk, which is produced into yogurt and converted onto cheese. That's fresh cheese, and it's also hard cheeses that keep. It makes up about 200 grams per week per consumer basket, and contributes to meeting the dairy requirements or the recommendations for a typical diet here in Europe, unless you're of course going vegan or something like that. In the past, this farm has also had pigs. It's had about 8 to 10 pigs is what it could carry, and the pigs have been very useful in running a systems approach to the farm because they've picked up on the vegetable excess that hasn't been taken up by the community, and they've also picked up on using the whey that is produced in the dairy production. So they've been very good consumers of various items that don't have any other use in the farm cycle, and then once a year those pigs that have been fed well have been brought to the butcher and they've been providing meat for the community. Now, we have some very good research that's been done in this area, and we still have quite a few questions and quite a few issues that we would like addressed. Some of this goes into looking at the balanced diet. The consumer gets such a food basket, and you may have noticed fruit doesn't figure so big, for example, here in this northern European region. So that's something we would need to address, especially because we have very seasonal fruit approaches. So we need to look at all the non-summer time of the year and see how can we meet that, perhaps by processing or making it available in a dry or frozen form. We also have the question or the issue of scaling up, and if we're looking at the greater impacts, if we're looking into environmental impacts, what we'd like to know is how do we organize such a farm system so that people do not have to drive individually using their cars to a farm and create the last mile impacts that we're really trying to avoid? What options are there? We've seen some examples, such as a CSA in Freiburg, which the community has looked to collect and to distribute the baskets by bicycle, which is quite stunning, but each community has to find its solution. But what are examples, and what is the balance? What is the data underlying that? What would work, what wouldn't work? Another of the issues is very much about participatory work, because that's one of the central ideas in community-supported agriculture. It's getting the farmers more involved in the consumer side of things, but also getting the consumer more involved in the farmer side of things. So that would help if we knew a little bit more what works, because these are people, the consumers are people who usually have their own job and they're doing this in their spare time. How can we find good solutions for this? What works? What are good processes to get people involved, to get people committed, and that really bring benefits to both sides of the equation? Another thing we'd like to know about more is the dietary diversity, and what we'd really be interested in is comparing it to typical, what we call Western diets, which tend to be not so beneficial to health. And there we'd really like to know the CSA diet. It's a diet that really comes from the land directly. How does that work in terms of health and sustainability? We need some metrics there. We need to do some measurements so that we really have the evidence to support the hypotheses around it. So there's plenty to do. And I hope you'd be very interested in community-supported agriculture and in such networks, and would look forward if you got involved. Thank you.